Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Stuart Davis, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about parenthood. You saw me say talk about last night that I mentioned that I had a good friend of the program, friend of the show. He comes in from time to time. Hey, just was expecting his first child, and we were celebrating that, right? Well, the baby was born. He is happy and healthy, and we are, of course, happy for that. God bless. And one of the things that that you always feel special about is becoming a parent for the first time. Now, that made me kind of just um, think about putting that into tonight's live stream, talking about being a parent, taking a little bit of break from Leviticus because again, it's dry, and um, you will have to pardon me for my performance last night. It was not my best stream. Not my best stream. There was a lot of ums and ahs and pauses and not a lot of coherent sentences. And I'm going to apologize for that. You're going to see that I'm doing this every night. I'm doing this right off the cuff without anything in regards to preparation. So I'm going to have nights where I'm on point, nights when I'm dead terrible, and and other nights where I'm going to be mediocre. But I'm going to try to bring to you guys the best I can do with what I got. But um, what I want to talk to you tonight is being a parent and what means to me as a Christian and what it means for me as a human being. Now, who am I to talk to you about this? Well, I'm a nobody. Like I said, my name is Stuart Davis. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my congregation. I'm not trying to get you to donate to any special cause either. What I am here to do is talk about being a Christian, give you exposure. If you're interested in starting a relationship with Christ, if you're interested in finding out that there's more to life, there's more to us than what we experience right here, by all means, listen to what I have to say. If you're looking for just conversation or topics to just have somebody that you can relate to, this is another aspect of things. And all are welcome. All are welcome here. And I really want anybody who tunes in to be able to get something out of this that's fulfilling in some ways. We're doing biblical readings. We're talking about topics. I'm bringing people on who do research on the Bible, who answer questions about things, and and we try to make and what I'm trying to do is build a show that's fun and entertaining and interactive. So I would really enjoy getting your comments, getting your feedback on things. How am I doing? What do you think about what topic is tonight that we're talking about? How does this thing affect you? I want to hear. Put it in the chat. Like, subscribe, share this stream to support the channel. This is what I'm trying to do. If you know somebody um, who might be interested or you think might need to hear what I'm saying, by all means, share it with them. It's it's fine. They don't have to listen to it, obviously, but but maybe they do, and maybe it changes your life. Maybe it changes theirs. But you can find me here on YouTube, a flawed man of God. You can find me on Facebook, a flawed man of God. You can find me on Twitter, a flawed man of God. Where you can't find me is on Instagram for the most part, because as you hear me say almost every night, I don't have an Instagram yet, but I guess I'll get one. One day I'll actually pull the trigger. Just to talk about some other things tonight. Like I said, I am trying to line up guests. We did have a good guest. I did get a tacit agreement from two guests that I'm very interested to come on. One is Billy Dyer, who is going to be talking about apologetics, and he was actually the person who first introduced me to apologetics, doing a seminar at a men's retreat that I went to a few years ago. He came and spoke at my church this past week, and I was like, "Oh, that's the dude, right?" So I went up and talked to him. He's got a podcast, so he's going to come and talk to us about the importance of apologetics and maybe do some other things. Another contributor to the show next Tuesday night, we're going to have Eric Rollon on to maybe finish our topic up on the 12 tribes of Israel. Maybe something else comes up like what happened last week. Anyways, this is what this channel is all about: talking about God in many facets, whether it's reading through the Bible, whether it's talking about what's going on in current events today, within the church and without. or just specific plot holes that we find in our faith that maybe some research can help close them. Interesting points of topics about that, but God centered. And like what I, and again, what I want to hear is not just what me running my mouth about. I also want to hear what you have to say, your thoughts, your opinions. Maybe you think I'm an idiot. Maybe you think that, my whole take is wrong. Maybe you interpret the Bible somewhat differently. But hey, does not matter. Give me a comment in this and leave a comment in the stream during the chat, or in the chat during the stream, and I will read it and we can have a live discussion right here about it. I don't have a big enough following right now that the chat is going to be clogged up. As you can see, it's bare. So, by all means, if you've got an opinion, share it. I want to hear it. Nothing I don't see much bad that can come from discussion on things. So, like I said, let me finish sharing this finish sharing the stream onto um, Facebook, onto my wall, and we can get going. Again, being a parent. So let's slow this down a little bit. If you have not become a parent yet, listen to the stream because it'll give you something to look forward to. If you're expecting, or if you've just had your kid, as my friend has, then then you might find this very fulfilling and it might meet your expectations. I hope so. I have two young kids. I have a son and I have a daughter. And I couldn't feel more blessed than how I am right now and how I feel right now, just from the two children that I have. And when I think back to becoming a parent for the first time, it was always an exciting prospect for me. Some people's births, um, pregnancies may not be expected. Some people's pregnancies, they're doing on their own because the father's not around, or the baby has arrived and something has happened to the mother. Either way, when you're holding that child for the first time, as a father, I remember holding the child for the first time. Um, it's special. It's exciting. It's everything's just kind of happening in a flash, and you're just rolling with it. It's just like winning. It's winning a great award, and you're in the moment, right? This is the championship of life. You've procreated, you've created, and you've brought this new life into being, and now you're holding it. So you've got the trophy. And I'm not trying to objectify a child, but I mean this is how the feelings of elation are going. You're riding on cloud nine, your baby, and this is all, assuming your baby is healthy, or at least is arriving as expected. That you're just riding the moment. And then things start to slow down a little bit. And then, I remember, as being a parent, sitting there, just um, watching my son, who was my first kid, watching my son lay there with my wife, and just just resting after this, because in our case, it was in the wee hours of the morning when he arrived, and it had been a long anticipation for it, and we're just sitting there resting. And I think to myself, there's nothing there's nothing quite as peaceful as where I'm at in this life. And what amazing things do I have to look forward to, and how special this journey, this adventure I have, has has must be. And along the way, I do a lot. You'll do a lot of things, a lot of worrying, a lot of laughing, a lot of time spent up just just sleepless, trying to wonder where all the time went and how much time you get back. You don't get any of it back. And then and to me, from a faith perspective, what happens to my kid? What are my worries? Because I have deep fears, just like anybody else, right? I have fears about, my biggest fear is being wrong about all about my entire faith, and that there is no faith, and there is no hereafter. And that's I mean, my wife can tell you that is my biggest fear, because what else would there be? Because there's too many special people that I've met in my life, and my kids are two of them, two of the most important ones. Too many special people who deserve more than just the brief amount of time we spend on this earth. And while I feel like there's overwhelming evidence to justify faith in uh, in the Lord, just looking all around me, I have to admit there are times I worry that I'm wrong about everything. I feel like I'm right, right? Or else I wouldn't believe. But I do worry that I'm wrong, and it's a heavy feeling. But outside of that, one of my biggest fears is that my kids will not come will walk away from their relationship with Jesus. We take them to church, they're in Sunday school, they understand who God is, but ultimately they have to make that choice themselves. And we can make this into what I like to talk to called my perspective, um, and how having a kid really matured my belief in God. Now, everybody has their come to Jesus moment. For me, I had mine at a young age to a degree, but where it took the most, where I got the most meaning out of things was having a kid. Because the more I dug into the word afterwards, the more it changed my perspective. Because I'm still, like I said, I have two young kids, so I'm in that phase where they're still learning, and they're trying to figure things out, and they didn't know what right and wrong was, but now they do know what right and wrong is, and now they're coming up with their own opinions and their own tastes and everything, and they're acting and they're developing their personalities. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and and I hope that anybody who is a parent of young children, or has a young infant, my advice is always never take that stuff for granted. Don't take it for granted, because one, you're not gonna get that time back, and number two, they're not gonna get that time back. And what do you want them to? You want to be able to look back and cherish the memories and time you spent then. You want them to look back and think about all the good memories they got to make with you, and all the good things that they learned from you, either by learning from the good example you set. We're learning from the mistakes that you make. Um, my parents, I love them. I have a enormous amount of love and respect for them. Um, but I feel also at times that I've learned so much from the things that I feel like they could have done better at, and I don't resent them for that. Especially now being a parent myself, I don't resent them for that, because I know I'm making my own mistakes. But I find myself doing correcting myself where maybe they didn't get the chance, where they didn't see the opportunity to make that correction, and I'm a better person for it. So don't be afraid of your own mistakes. Um, don't think that you've completely screwed up. It's a stressful thing. You have one life or multiple lives now under your care, under that are going to look up to you, that are going to um, take all the experience that they get from interacting with you and turn it into and it's going to help shape their soul and their personality and everything around it and everything about their life. You're the main part of that life for the first 18 years, we'll say. That was where the perspective with God is. Because when we think of God, what do we call him? We call God Father, right? And I had my last pastor, the pastor before our current one at my church. I think he did a great thing in one of his sermons when he introduced considering God. He was using the Greek term Abba as a daddy. Basically, you're really personifying the role of God as a father, as a parent, as somebody that you can run to, that you can seek and reach sanctuary with. And the reason that makes sense is, wouldn't you do that for your kids? If your kid is scared, or if they're hurt, or if they're unsure, and they feel alone, and they just don't know where to turn, where do you want them to be able to go? You want at least you to be an option, an option that they know that they can run to um, without the fear of being turned away. And I think that's a big thing that God represents. He represents, you know, we talk about unconditional love. He loves us unconditionally, but it's our choice whether we accept that unconditional love. You can project that unconditional love for your child. It is ultimately up to them to accept that or not. And you might have to dish out tough love to them, and you might have to keep them at arm's length sometimes when they are in a toxic space and they are unwilling to do the things that they need to do in order to be a healthy person. My kids aren't at that age yet. They're still too young, and they're still in that they still live in that bubble where the world is great. But I have to be open to the possibility that one day my kid is not going to agree with everything I say. One day that my kids are going to think that I don't know anything, or they might just not feel like they respect me. Whether it's a on a day that we have a disagreement, or it's an entire season of their life where they don't respect what I represent. And I went through those times myself as a kid, as a son, where I rebelled against my parents, and I didn't think that they knew what was going on. And what do I do? The majority of my 20s were spent, and a big part of my 30s was spent going, okay, I get it now. I understand why they were the way they were, and I understand why they did things as parents that they did. And so we look at God, and when we're in the Old Testament, I think that's one of the best places to start with thinking about God as a parent, because we start in Genesis. God is creating everything, right? He's creating life, and we look at how he looks at Adam and Eve and creating them. Adam's lonely. He makes Eve as a companion for him, and they have this space to themselves. He's created this garden of perfection, this idyllic location where they can just do whatever they want, but they have rules, very simple rules. Don't eat from the tree of knowledge. What do? They do it anyway. What do you do when your kids? What do you do when you tell your kids not to do a specific thing? What can you generally bank on? They're going to do it. At least if you're one of my kids, and at least when I was a kid, I was somewhat of a rule follower, but I was also impulsive. That's part of being learning your boundaries as well. Part of growing up and becoming more mature. Um, Adam and Eve broke that rule, and God just said, "Hey, all right, since you did this, this is where how things have to be now, and you have to take." So he took that harsh approach, and sometimes as a parent, you have to take a harsh action, because your kids have to grow up. And so he sent them out there and he punished them. But he didn't condemn them. He didn't cast them away. He didn't destroy them. He didn't obliterate them from existence just because they messed up. No. And then when the whole world had turned evil, God was able to find one man and his family who were still righteous. And so instead of destroying the entire world all over, he started over with them. He gave them a task, and they were obedient, and they did exactly what they said. And you don't really see Noah asking much question, but you know, God gave him enough, I guess, enough information to go off of, and he starts again. He didn't give up on humanity. He didn't give up on Adam's line, but there were people who were so far removed or so corrupted by sin that they were rejecting him, but Noah didn't. So God stayed true to him. And after Noah, we see Abraham arrive, and that's when God really says, "Look, this is what the plan is now. I'm going to set you aside, because again, the line is the world is once again rejecting God as it spreads out and does other things, and they forget about God. But Abraham doesn't. His clan doesn't. So God looks at them and he puts him through many tasks, and Abraham's not the only one. But Abraham's another big part to realize as being a parent. God asked him to sacrifice his only son at that point, because he had Ishmael. Abraham had Ishmael, but that he had sent Ishmael and his mom away, and so they were estranged, I guess you could say. But Isaac's the only one with him, and it's still his kid, right? It's his son, and the son's not an infant. The son has got some years on him, so maybe he's as old as my kid, or maybe he's a teenager. But God says, "Hey, you got to kill him. You got to sacrifice him to me. Show me how important that is to you." And so Abraham, being the obedient follower, prepares to do it and is ready to do it. And I can't imagine, and I said this when we went through that reading of Genesis, I can't imagine being in that spot. I can't imagine not having an argument with God at that point. Why or bargaining, going through the five stages, I think it's 5 stages of grief, going through those 5 stages of grief, and just what can I do? It's got to be something else. Let me sacrifice myself. I will kill myself in your name. I will do any of these things. And we don't know exactly what Abraham does, or if he even has a discussion with God, or if he's so faithful that he just says, "Okay, I trust in you." We don't know if for sure if there is any type of context behind that, but in the end, he does exactly what's being told of him, and he's prepared to sacrifice. And God said, "Stop! Don't do it. Sacrifice that ram instead." And he sets him aside. And we see how um, we say how Jacob's mistake as a father, um, setting Joseph aside, breeding that distrust and resentment between the 12 brothers, or his 12 sons, um, because he favors one over the rest. And that even after that, when Joseph is in Egypt, and he takes Simon as a key as collateral, and they go back. Jacob's not going to go back and get his other son, because he doesn't want to risk losing his his youngest son, and the last child he has with Rachel. He just doesn't want to let go. So we see him make mistakes, but these are mistakes that people make as adults, as parents. Some folks, and I know that has been something that's um, my family has struggled with on my mom's side of the family, with favoritism. Not me specifically, in me and my immediate family, but um, we do have family members that do play favorites, um, within the family, for no reason other than possibly birth order. Then this is a mistake, but it's a natural mistake that people make, and we see where it can be harmful. But again, doesn't mean he doesn't care about his kids. Um, it just means that he's human, and that's what we all are. So if you're a new parent, that's the next thing. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. Your kids are going to learn. Hopefully, will learn from what they see that you do is wrong. Maybe you can teach them about what you did wrong. How you go about that is your business. It's your decision. But please be responsible about it. Please be open. Make sure you teach your kids humility. Teach them Teach them humility, teach them, and teach them grace, because they're going to need it for themselves for when they are humble. Because if you get down on yourself, if you allowed your kid to get down on themselves, you got to have a way, give them a way to lift themselves up. You can be your kid's biggest cheerleader, right? You can want them to succeed, but they have to believe in themselves as well. That's the same thing with God. God is our biggest cheerleader. He wants to see us succeed, and that doesn't mean necessarily that we need to land this big promotion that we think we need, or we need to be financially set, or we have to be a pillar of the community. No, He wants us to be faithful to Him. He wants us to love each other, and show grace to each other. He wants us to reflect the values that He has instilled in us throughout the Bible, and that's one of the reasons why I'm reading the Bible from cover to cover, and why I'm doing it in order, so that we can find out that the Bible is not just a few special books in the Bible that we're supposed to listen to. It's a collection of books that all have very insightful things, have very specific things that God wants us to learn from them. And it's all about the Bible is a story of redemption. The Bible is our path to navigating our flaws. And I think that's what makes things so beautiful about being a parent, and about God as a parent. You'll see your kid and they'll have their own quirks, and they'll have their own issues that maybe aren't ideal or maybe make them a little weird. And maybe you'll see some of your own quirks and issues with them. I know I see them with me. I'm an ADHD kid, right? Grew up with ADHD. I was a case study in ADHD. I struggled deeply. My son has that same struggle. But the good thing for me is that because I had that struggle, I know how to relate to him. I know how to be there for him when he has those similar struggles. And the same thing with God. God hasn't went God has been through life. And he showed us that when he sent Christ down. And the life that Christ lived was one that kind of show us that, hey, this isn't just a sacrifice. This isn't just me coming down to teach y'all grace. This isn't just me coming down to die for your sins. That's the ultimate purpose. That's the main mission. But what it also serves as is an example that, hey, I can come down and I can live this life like you did, and I can do these things and have the same needs and not be able to and not have not put it on cheat mode or easy mode and just say, hey, I can just resist these temptations because I'm God and I can just do it. No, I came down here. I made myself mortal. I'm hungry. I get thirsty. I bleed. I can get sick. All these things can happen to me. I can be tempted. I can go through all these, but because he is a perfect person, he is the perfect parent. He is the perfect being in this universe. He navigated it perfectly. But he showed us there that, hey, I've been through this before. And the only thing I can't relate to you with is imperfection, which is which is the biggest difference between us and God is his perfection and our imperfection. But he leaves that to us to teach it to each other. My friend, I congratulate you for your baby. I am excited for you. I know how excited you and your wife are introducing this first of however many children that you have. And this, I can be talking to someone specific, or I can be talking to anybody. But I congratulate you. Go through this, take this next chapter in life, and and cherish it through the good and the bad, through the frustrations and the struggles, and the but also through the triumphs, through the learning experience, through all the happiness and all the together, and being a family, being what God and made with us. Um, God creating that family unit to teach us, because God does not show cannot show as an example imperfections, because he's not an imperfect being. But what he can do is set us up to teach each other how to live with grace, because he can show us grace, but he needs us to understand it and respect it with each other. When you become a parent for the first time, if you were a Christian, I definitely recommend just rereading the Bible, just reassessing all the different lessons that you learned through the faith, and looking at them through the perspective of a father or a mother, and taking that into account. It's going to flip everything upside down for you, because you're just, well, I don't know. That's a bad thing to say. It's not going to flip everything upside down for you, but you're going to see more clearly, I think. And yeah, maybe your perspective, your opinions do change on the matter, because you're looking at it from a person, from a perspective of someone who's created someone else, and now and that's someone that you want to succeed more than you do. If it came down to um, my kids spending an eternity in damnation, and me, I would take that I would take that step every day. They are so precious to me. And I think that there are times where Jesus kind of tried it. We I My feelings, and I know I'm not the only person. I know that probably most parents feel this way. But my bond with my kids and my love for my kids and my attachment to my kids is so strong that this is something that God has to worry about is um me favoring my kids more than him. And it's a hard thing. It's hard thing for me to put in perspective because it's easy for me to say no, God is first. God is first in my life. And hopefully I never have hopefully there's never a time where I have to choose one or the other. It's hopefully it's this continues to be a we're all in this together. We're all working together. We're not working against each other. But Jesus in the new it during his time on earth does have a point where he goes um he has to tell us, look, your family, I'm sure your family is important to you, but it is nothing compared to me. And when we talk about being too attached to worldly items, and being too attached to other things, I think that there is something to be said for being too attached to your kids in that respect. It's a dangerous thing because it's more precious than gold to you. It should be anyway. But at the same time, you have to remember that it's still beneath God. And these are the struggles. These are the struggles as a kid that you have as a parent. The worries, things that keep me up at night, things that keep me from getting a great night's sleep is worrying not so much about is my kid going to be a Cincinnati Reds fan like me, but more along, or is my kid going to grow up and be successful? Is he going to grow up and make a lot of money? Is he going to grow up and have a family and be a good dad or be a good mom? In the case of my daughter, my all those are secondary. I want my kid to be a child, be a true follower of God, and be able to show grace in other people's mistakes, be humble in their lives, and show grace to themselves. But more than anything else, love God with all their heart and try their best to follow the principles that He laid out for us, and believe and be better people than I am. Be better than me. But if they can't be as good as me, if they can't be um if they can't be live a life as good as mine, warts and all, then I hope that they get enough that they can get salvation. That's a struggle, right? That's a struggle for us as believers having kids. Now, a different perspective, um, and this will be like I guess this will be where the final my final point here. If you are a parent already and you haven't started a relationship with Christ, and maybe your kids are young or their kids are older, doesn't matter, and they don't know Christ, this is where it gets very real. If I'm right, and again I think I am, there is a hereafter and there is a heaven and there is something to look forward to past here. But one, you have to believe, and two, you have to follow and turn your life to the point where you are trying to be show as much honor to God as possible, follow in Christ's footsteps as close as you can, and just do the best job living those principles. And you need to and if you want a reason to start, and if you want to have somebody to disciple to, your kids are the best path to do that. And if your kid is trying to get you to start a relationship with Christ or trying to get you to reconnect with Christ, it's because they care about you. Because they care about you the way that you care about your parents, maybe stronger than that. Maybe stronger than that. Maybe you did something. Maybe you did something so impactful, or maybe you didn't. Or maybe you just created a life that cares about you so much that they want to see you saved as well. And good for you if you did that. There are parents who have kids who struggle with disabilities, terminal illness, addiction, apostasy, all things that scare us. We want to have happy kids. Sometimes our kids are born with defects. physical defects, mental defects. Sometimes our kids have got mental illness. Sometimes our kids sometimes our kids are unwilling to listen. I hope I never join your group on the last part. I hope I never join your group on any of them. But again, my main goal and the thing I tell my kids is you work you work hard to make sure that we all make it to heaven together. We work for each other because we all want to be there in the end. I want to see them. I want to see their kids. And I want to see the whole line. And I want to see my and I know that my parents want to do the same thing. I want us all to be there. And I know that we're not, but the ones that I have immediate responsibility for that are in my immediate circle, I feel a great weight of responsibility to make sure that that portion of our line of our family stays intact for eternity. So, again, my friend, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I hope that this is the first of many. I hope that I hope that you get all the joy out of parent being out about being a parent as possible. There is a lot to look forward to, and I'm saying this as somebody who's only 8 years into being a parent. Um, there's a lot to look forward to, and don't let the moment get too big for you. If you've got to take a break, take a break. Understand your limits. Lean on others for help if they offer it, if you need it. There's going to be times that it's going to be stressful. From infancy, when they're crying and you don't know what to get them, how to get them to go to sleep or to just be restful, to any other way. Um, to my kid struggling in school, he doesn't know what to do. There's a learning disability there, or to my kid's gotten involved with some bad folks, and he's living a life that I don't want him to live, or he's gotten into a marriage that's not healthy, or he's disconnecting from God. There's going to be stressful moments. Keep faith in God and do the best you can, um, to give them the tools that they need and the person that they can lean on, to best guide them back to faith and doing the right thing. That will conclude my discussion on being a parent. This is not going to be my only discussion about it, but again, I felt like it was a good time to do it. I felt like it was I felt like doing this in honor of seeing somebody who I know has been very excited about being a parent, finally becoming one, and I thought I'd do I thought I'd do it for him and for everybody else out there who might want to hear it or might enjoy hearing it. Maybe you guys, if you've got kids who have moved out and maybe you're in a good place, maybe you can listen to this and reflect back on it. Just be like, yeah, I don't want to be like Paul when it comes to our family. I've run the race, I've fought the good fight. Let's do that. In the meantime, folks, tomorrow more reading, and we will get back to Leviticus. I hope you all enjoy your evening, and you all have a safe day tomorrow. Good night. God bless. Godspeed.